A woman hastened to the hospital in labor. And a quick glance at her oddly shaped belly prompted the doctor to request an additional ultrasound. To the astonishment of all present, a gigantic egg was found inside her. At 5 months along, Michelle's abdomen visibly depicted the life growing within her. While it appeared to be a typical pregnancy to others, for Michelle and her husband Victor, it represented a miraculous event. After 15 years of unsuccessful fertility treatments, countless doctor appointments, and profound disappointment, they had almost lost all hope. Overwhelmed and distressed, they chose to abandon their exhausting quest for a child. They sold their urban apartment and relocated to a simple farm in the countryside. Seeking tranquility and a fresh start, Michelle often comforted herself by saying, "If it's meant to happen, it will happen." Later, while assisting Victor in the garden, Michelle began to feel unusually sick. She initially ignored the symptoms, but as they intensified, Victor convinced her to consult a doctor. Reluctantly, Michelle went. Dr. Rachel, a sympathetic practitioner, gave her the surprising news Michelle was expecting. In disbelief, Michelle queried, "Are you certain?" To which Dr. Rachel confidently replied, "Absolutely. You are pregnant." Overwhelmed with joy, Michelle wept, and Victor embraced her tightly, murmuring, "It's a miracle." Dr. Rachel, smiling, remarked, "Sometimes life brings unexpected joys. What matters is that you're going to be parents, and the child you've been hoping for is on its way." Following the revelation, Dr. Rachel recommended an ultrasound to monitor the pregnancy and emphasized the importance of prenatal care for both Michelle and the baby's health. "These steps are critical," she advised. However, Michelle, expressing gratitude for the news, declined further testing and prenatal care, saying, "I appreciate this miracle, but I prefer to continue as we have, away from medical facilities." Dr. Rachel, somewhat surprised, responded, "Michelle, while I respect your choice, prenatal care is crucial. I would advise considering a move closer to the city for ongoing support throughout your pregnancy." Reflecting on her family's past, Michelle sighed. "My grandmother delivered 12 children on the farm without medical help, and my mother had 5 children at home assisted by a midwife. They did it. So I believe I can do it too. Perhaps this is the moment God chose to bless me." Victor, who had remained quiet, recognized Michelle's intent to follow in her family's footsteps and her reluctance to involve hospitals. Resolving to support her, he affirmed, "I'll back her decision," while tenderly holding her hand. Dr. Rachel, acknowledging her inability to sway their decision, exhaled deeply. "Okay. But please visit the hospital if anything seems off. And maybe get an ultrasound to monitor the baby's health and find out the gender?" Michelle politely refused. "I prefer it to be a surprise. I'll focus on taking care of myself with herbal remedies, proper nutrition, and my husband's support. Our baby will be just fine." On the farm, Michelle's spirits and vitality flourished. And although Victor harbored some concerns, he found confidence in her positive outlook. Throughout her pregnancy, Michelle remained active, assisting Victor with farm duties, crafting baby garments, and lovingly speaking to her growing baby. "Our little miracle is thriving," she would say, lovingly caressing her stomach. Victor, despite his worries, couldn't help but share in her happiness and the anticipation of their new arrival. However, as the 5th month of pregnancy approached, Michelle started to feel persistent abdominal pains, hinting at potential complications. Initially, the discomfort was manageable, but it progressively intensified, with the pain becoming more consistent. Her belly expanded rapidly, reaching a size that suggested a full-term pregnancy. Though she was only in her 6th month, Victor's concern deepened as he discreetly observed her unusually large and oddly shaped abdomen, which stirred unease within him. Yet he chose to keep his apprehensions private to spare her distress. One night, as he softly touched her stomach, he inquired cautiously, "Are you okay, my dear? Are you certain everything's fine?" Michelle offered a comforting smile, concealing her own fears. "Of course, my love. It just shows how strong our baby is getting," she replied, secretly hoping that perhaps they were expecting twins. As time progressed, it became apparent that something was amiss. Visitors, including close relatives and friends, were alarmed by Michelle's appearance. Even her mother, Mrs. Martha, grew worried. She grasped Michelle's hand and said, "Michelle, you need to consult a doctor. Your stomach is unusually large, and I haven't felt the baby move. Something seems wrong." "It's all okay, Mom. The baby is just not very active," Michelle reassured her, trying to maintain her composure. Witnessing her daughter's resistance, Mrs. Martha pulled Victor aside and expressed her concerns. "Victor, I appreciate that you're supporting Michelle, but this situation isn't normal. She needs professional medical attention. I can't stand the idea of losing either her or the baby." Victor, grappling with his own reservations, paid close attention. Although he had backed Michelle's decision to deliver the baby on their farm, the complications were now becoming overwhelming. He assured Mrs. Martha that he would handle the situation. Later that night, he softly approached Michelle. "Love, I understand you want to deliver here, but maybe we should just check in at the hospital to ensure all is well. We'll return right after," he suggested. Michelle responded defensively, her arms folded and her expression one of annoyance. "Victor, we've discussed this already. I'm okay. The baby's okay. Just 3 more months and it'll all be over. I'm tired of hospitals. We need to trust in God now," she insisted. Victor, feeling a mix of defeat and resolve, exhaled deeply. He was aware of the potential risks of Michelle's reluctance. By the 7th month of her pregnancy, Michelle's condition had worsened significantly. Her belly had enlarged immensely, looking more like a colossal dinosaur egg than a typical pregnant abdomen. Victor, increasingly concerned, avoided staring at her stomach too long, worried his anxiety would show. The pain Michelle felt intensified, causing her excruciating discomfort that often bent her over in pain. She sought solace in herbal teas, though these were barely masking her pain from Victor. Despite her suffering, she continually told herself, Just 2 more months. Michelle. You can endure this. One day, as Michelle was walking to the kitchen to grab a snack, she was suddenly overwhelmed by a severe pain that brought her to her knees. Trying to get up, she was hit by another agonizing spasm that made her collapse and hold her abdomen. Victor, hearing the commotion, ran to the kitchen and was shocked to find Michelle in tears, her complexion ashen and damp with sweat. A wave of fear washed over him. Michelle. What's happening? Are you all right? He asked, crouching next to her. I am. I'm okay, she managed to say softly, but was soon yelling in pain, her cries reverberating through the house. In that moment, Victor made up his mind. Enough. Michelle. We're going to the hospital now. No matter what. Michelle attempted to protest, but the intense pain left her feeble and unable to resist. With a feeble nod, she agreed, allowing Victor to carry her to their car. His heart racing, Victor drove as fast as he could to the hospital, aware that every second counted. Along the way, Michelle moaned in distress, gripping Victor's hand firmly, tears streaming down her cheeks. Forgive me, my love, she cried. I was too stubborn. If something happens to our baby, I'll never forgive myself. Victor, battling his own fears, tried to comfort her. It's going to be all right, Michelle. We'll get through this. God is with us. The journey seemed interminable, Michelle's sobs pushing him to exceed speed limits in his urgency. Eventually, they reached the bustling city hospital. Upon their arrival, the usual commotion of the hospital momentarily paused. A quiet awe settled over the crowd as patients and staff stopped to observe Michelle being hurried along the corridors. Expressions of shock, disbelief, and worry appeared on their faces as they saw something highly unusual. How can this be? Someone whispered, looking at her enlarged belly. I've never seen anything like it. Another person commented softly, gasping for air and on the verge of exhaustion from lifting Michelle. Victor shouted, help us. Please. My wife needs assistance. Almost immediately, Dr. Rachel approached, quickly taking stock of the situation. Her expression turned to one of worry when she noticed Michelle's abnormally large and peculiarly shaped abdomen. Get a stretcher immediately, she commanded the attending nurses, assisting Michelle to a seated position. With a calm yet concerned voice, she inquired, how long have you been pregnant? 7 months. Michelle managed to say, her voice weak. Rachel felt her heart rate increase. Michelle's abdomen was the size of a full-term pregnancy, yet its form was unusual. Is it possible it's twins? She questioned urgently. Victor, overwhelmed by anxiety, clasped Michelle's hand tighter. We don't know, doctor. We opted not to have any ultrasounds and put our faith in God, he responded. Rachel took a moment to compose herself, recognizing that now was not the time for judgments. Okay, Michelle. We need to get you to the delivery room straight away. Once in the delivery room, Rachel performed a physical examination but found no signs that Michelle was in labor. There were no movements or signs of life when she pressed Michelle's abdomen. Rachel's voice grew more solemn. Try to relax. Michelle. Your discomfort might not be labor-related. We need an ultrasound to figure out what's going on. Michelle's eyes began to tear up as she murmured. This isn't supposed to be happening. Victor. Distraught and urgent. Pleaded. Doctor. Please proceed with whatever is necessary. We need to know what's wrong. As they moved towards the ultrasound room, Michelle kept repeating. This isn't supposed to be happening. In the ultrasound room, Rachel set up the equipment. Her thoughts clouded with worry. Michelle's abdomen was not only enlarged but also unusually hard and oval. Pushing her worst fears aside, Rachel applied the ultrasound gel. Are you ready? She asked, trying to keep her composure. Michelle and Victor, both shaking, gave a silent nod. As Rachel glided the ultrasound device across Michelle's abdomen, a vague shape started to appear on the display. Rachel's hand trembled, and her eyes grew wide with astonishment. In all her years of practice, she'd thought she had seen it all. Yet this was unprecedented. She murmured in awe. My God. Taken aback by what she saw. What's wrong? Doctor? Michelle's voice shook with fear. Victor peered closer, but the image remained blurry and indistinct. Rachel inhaled sharply, her gaze locked on the monitor. Michelle. She began, her voice unsteady. This isn't a baby. A sense of dread filled Victor. Not a baby, he echoed. Rachel hesitated before replying gently. It appears to be an egg. There's a large egg inside your womb. A heavy silence enveloped the room, punctured only by Michelle's heavy breathing and the steady beep of the monitor. An egg. Michelle echoed in shock. Rachel confirmed with a nod, transfixed by the display. As she adjusted the probe, the image of the egg sharpened. Michelle burst into tears, overwhelmed by fear. This can't be happening, she cried. Victor embraced her, tears streaming down his own face. We just wanted a baby. How can this be? Distraught, Michelle turned to Rachel. How could I have tested positive for pregnancy? How? Before Rachel could answer, she fine-tuned the ultrasound settings. And suddenly, two small forms came into view, nestled together. Look, she said with a reassuring smile. You're actually carrying twins, two healthy babies. The couple, still stunned, gazed at the screen. Are they all right? Victor asked, his voice cracking. Yes, Rachel confirmed. But we have a complication. The twins are sharing space with this egg-like structure. And we need to understand what it is. It might pose a risk to them. Their brief moment of relief was quickly overshadowed by renewed worry. Michelle, now weeping uncontrollably, whispered regretfully. This is all my fault. I should have done the tests. Why was I so stubborn? Victor, kneeling beside her, cupped her face in his hands. My love, you're not to blame for this. And neither is anyone else. Everything will be all right. Our babies will be safe. He comforted her. Dr. Rachel gently placed her hand on Michelle's shoulder, advising her. This is a time when staying calm is crucial. Your children depend on you. She immediately summoned a nurse and issued clear instructions. Reach out to Dr. Frederick immediately, He's our best surgeon and his skills are essential right now. Dr. Frederick soon appeared. His expression serious as he examined the ultrasound images and listened to Dr. Rachel's summary. Throughout my career, I've seen many cases, but this one is exceptionally rare, he commented. His eyes locked on the monitor. Both Rachel and Frederick wasted no time in strategizing their approach. They gave Michelle medication to alleviate her pain while they carried out more detailed tests. After a comprehensive evaluation, they had their diagnosis. This isn't an egg, but a lipoma, Dr. Rachel told the anxious couple. It's a substantial lipoma that's been developing alongside the babies, depleting your energy, Michelle, and taxing your system, she detailed. Shocked, Michelle and Victor realized the seriousness of their predicament. Victor, voice shaking, inquired, "What does this mean for us?" Dr. Rachel clarified that the rapidly growing lipoma was using up the nutrients and energy intended for the twins, endangering both Michelle and the fetuses. Dr. Frederick added that the only solution was to remove the lipoma via cesarean section. This would mean the twins would have to be born prematurely. With desperation in her eyes and Victor squeezing her hand tightly, Michelle grasped the gravity of the situation. Dr. Rachel outlined the significant risks of the procedure for both Michelle and the twins, yet emphasized the absence of any viable alternatives. Confronted with this critical situation, Michelle, tears streaming down her face yet driven by her deep love for her children, instructed the doctors to go ahead to safeguard her children's lives. Shortly thereafter, Michelle was urgently wheeled into the surgical room of the intensive care unit due to the urgency of her condition. Victor remained outside, his emotions overflowing as tears streamed down his face. Meanwhile, inside the operating room, Rachel and Frederick prepared themselves for a delicate operation. As Frederick took the scalpel with a firm grip, the consistent beat of Michelle's heart echoed through the space, highlighting the gravity of each maneuver. Their first objective involved the painstaking removal of a lipoma, a task that demanded over an hour of careful attention. Once the mass was extracted, the doctors were startled by its hefty weight of 5 kilograms and its odd shape. In a low voice, Frederick remarked on its unusual form. Rachel quickly instructed, "Take this to the lab for analysis immediately." As the team tried to shake off the unease brought by the strangely shaped, large oval mass, despite the unsettling discovery, they knew distractions could not prevail. Their immediate priority was the critical care of the newborns. Taking charge, Rachel made a new incision in Michelle's abdomen to commence the cesarean section. As she operated, she quietly reassured herself, "I will save these babies. I will save this family." In the hallway outside the surgery room, Victor was on his knees, praying intensely with his hands clasped, filled with hope, whispering, "God, please look after my wife and children." The stillness was suddenly broken by the sound of a newborn crying, quickly followed by another. Victor was swept with a wave of joy and relief, crying and shouting with delight, "My babies are here." Shortly afterward, Rachel emerged from the surgery room, pulled off her mask, and with a wide smile, announced, "The operation went well. The babies are healthy." She mentioned that the twins were in the neonatal ICU due to being premature but assured everyone that they were resilient. Emotions flooding him, Victor cried as he hugged the doctor. Lost for words. As days passed, Michelle's condition steadily improved. After spending a few weeks in the NICU, the infants grew strong enough to go home with their parents. Further examinations showed that Michelle's lipoma was benign and unlikely to come back. The couple expressed deep gratitude toward the medical team and hospital staff. Michelle, profoundly impacted by the experience, committed to prioritizing her family's health like never before, tearfully asserting as she looked at her children, "From now on, I'll take better care of us." With their family now complete, they felt a renewed sense of appreciation for life, determined to treasure every moment with their little ones who had profoundly changed their lives. After watching the story above, do you have any thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. If you enjoyed our video, please like, subscribe, and share our channel. That's all about today's stories. See you next time.